Hello and welcome to the Metal Gear Online review. Now, I'll only be reviewing the online portion. For the story mode, it's already a 10 out of 10 in my book. I don't need to convince anyone how good that is. But for the online, it's a little bit of a different story. I'm going to be putting my score right in the beginning here. And then I'll explain it after, since it is a long video. Now, the current score for I deem this game is 3 out of 10. Yes, that's low, because there's many problems, which I'll go over later. However, it's not permanent. I'm aware there is a patch coming to fix a lot of the problems and nerfing going around to the various weapons. And that's scheduled for November, I think? But that will fix some of the problems, and my opinion on it will change when that happens. But I also have map previews at the end of the video as well. So the true length of this video may be around 16 minutes, to be honest. Alright, let's get started on basic knowledge. We're looking at the pretty much things you'll need to know and actually play the game. Other things will come later. First off, we have the camera. The camera's not fixed to one position. You can switch it to either shoulder by pushing the R3 on the PS4 controller. Pretty simple. Very useful for around a corner. Next, you can do the dive by pushing the square button. A dive is a good way to evade danger very quickly, and you can repeat this process to continue to make yourself very scarce and difficult to hit. For those without mics, they can still communicate by holding the L1 button and selecting the right stick what of the preset commands they want to say, to try and convey their feelings. It's limited, but hey, it's better than nothing. Changing intensity just simply changes the pitch of your character's voice, to say the common saying. All units are equipped with a rifle scope. Not really for shooting, but for spotting enemies. You can tag them if you patrol over them long enough. Now, all enemies are... just because someone's lying behind you doesn't make you vulnerable. All units can turn around on a dime to shoot their opponents. So just because you're sneaking up on someone doesn't mean you have to jump on them. For grabbing, when you get close to a target, push the R2. But even you can turn around and do this to other opponents. In this state, they're pretty vulnerable and stunned. You can Voltron them or kill them. Also, we're all equipped with a sound radar. Sprinting, large machinery, and gunfire will reveal your location to nearby. Now for game types, I'm not going to bother going over Team Deathmatch. It's pretty simple other than one twist, which I'll get to later. We'll start with Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is sort of like attack and defend. One side attacks, while the other one defends the objectives. The objectives is these data disks. Now it's the Cloak's people, as they're invisible, will try to grab them and then take them back to the uplink location. So either defend both objectives, or you can lie in wait along the path to their uplink locations. Now, since they're all invisible, if they sprint, they'll be easy to spot. But if they stand still and take their sweet time, it'll be actually quite difficult to see them. But they only have so much time to actually accomplish this objective. So it's up to them how they wish to accomplish this. So you can come right up to their uplink location and wait for them. They have no choice but to engage you at this point. Or you can properly defend your other objectives, and it'll not be a problem later on. Vulturing them doesn't really accomplish too much, but you can choose to do it anyway, and get you more points. Now, on the other side, the catch is, the people are invisible. Any unit can be invisible, such as my Enforcer, who's a heavy. And the other catch is, they have no offensive weapons at all. The attackers are nothing but stable tranquilizers and stun weapons. Nothing else. So pretty much entirely non-lethal. The only way they can get rid of their enemies is by Voltring them. Now there's multiple ways you can handle this. You could Voltron all your opponents to actually win. Or you can go ahead and try to sneak your way in. Though this might be difficult, because a lot of the enemies will be lying in wait for you. And with only a tranquilizer, you are very lightly defended. And only the best of shots will get by unscathed. But regardless, your objective, like before, is to take the data disk and to take it to the uplink. Like I said, they'll be lying in wait. The other catch is, there are no lives. So if you die, it's game over for you. Similar to survival, on both sides. Alright, moving on from that we got Uplink, I think it was called. Yes. It's sort of like King of the Hill. Like, pretty much that sort of kind of explains it to a certain extent. But you got the added integration of people being invisible and a lot of other explosions and trap weapons. But it's a pretty simple concept, to be honest. You got 3 points, you capture them, the vault you hold more points, the more capture points you hold, the more points the opposing side gets. The other side's objective is to stop the other side from getting the most points. So both sides will be on both ends trying to rack up as many points as possible. Or maybe the other side will be defending, depending how it plays out. All pretty simple stuff. And Team Deathmatch is also very simple. You shoot people, you Voltron people, they lose lives, you gain lives. It's a pretty simple concept once you start playing it. Now, characters and equipment class. Go over the various different classes and their stuff. First off is Infiltrator. The give or take good or bad thing about this game. Infiltrator is the lightest of the 3. Has various armaments, both deadly and non-deadly. And has other things that may break or make the game. The most defining feature is the Infiltrator can go invisible. When standing still, they're actually quite convincingly transparent, but when they're moving, it's almost painfully obvious. That and their shadow gives them away. When they're in full-blown sprint, it's pretty much useless. They stick it like a sore thumb. But if you're not careful in your surroundings and you camp too long, they can sneak up on you, and by the time you notice, it will be too late. Because in this moment, you can do nothing. You always come equipped with petrol bombs, or Molotovs. The fire is quite deadly and is a sure pretty much sentence of death. They also have flash grenades that will stun you. One well-placed one can knock you out, rendering you quite vulnerable. Next up, the Scout. The Scout is the long-range and target finder of the group. Now, it has the first one's access to T-Lokes, or E-Locators, which I'll get to in a second, but they also have first access to sniper rifles as well. Now, they also come equipped with night vision. Night vision, when upgraded, works during the day and you can even see invisible opponents, rendering those really annoying infiltrators sometimes pretty vulnerable. Next up, we have E-Locators. Now, if you don't know where your enemy is, or you just want to spam these over a long-range area to find out many enemies, you'll easily tag people for you for up to 20 seconds. Now for the Enforcer, the heavy guy. Most armor, first one to access LMGs, and other things too. They also have their own unique shield. The shield is rather bulletproof for small arms fire. It even works when you're knowing how to directly equip it. They also have gas mines. Rather annoying, but gas mines work as you figured they would. Enemies run near a mine, it explodes, and they get knocked out. No struggle at all. Next, they also have C4. C4 is more of a trap and diversionary weapon. You can easily lay it down in auspicious places, and it's quite powerful. When enemies walk near it, detonate it using the triangle, and you can get an easy kill. Also, instead of sleep mines, we have sleep gas grenades as well. They work just the same. There's no defense against it. Now also, multiple classes have it, but the Enforcer has the first access, a smoke grenade. When things look hectic, you rack up a high bounty and Team Deathmatch, you don't want to lose all that. Next, we'll talk about Voltron. Voltron's the alternative to killing your opponent in online. Those who are familiar with Metal Gear know what this is, but for those who don't, it's sort of like a balloon. When you attach to someone, it will carry them away. In Team Deathmatch, this will get you any points that person has used against your team, like kills. There's also Voltron cannons, used by infiltrators and such. Rather annoying things, to be honest. how they work is, like any other mine, you simply walk up to it, and it will automatically fire the Voltron, whether you're awake or stunned, or even anything else. There is no fighting for it. Also, beware of infiltrators. They also have, high-level ones have the infamous Voltron Punch, and can easily come rushing at you, just with a simple strike, immediate Voltron. So be careful of these, because they can get your opponents all their lives back. Next on, Dwalker and other stationaries. The Dwalker is the bipedal machine I've wandered around in this video. It is equipped with a heavy chain gun and pistols. The chain gun has 500 bullets in a match, the pistols have around 60. Both are rather deadly, and it can be switched on the fly. Since the chain gun does overheat, you might need to rely on the pistols. Next up, with the Dwalker, it is somewhat bulletproof, but the cracks you can still harm people, and with enough gunfire it will be destroyed. But this often takes a lot of concentrated fire. The best way, and the safest way, is probably to throw a couple of grenades at it from cover. It is quite quick, so you have to be quick with it. But destroying a Dwalker does not kill its occupant, not with conventional firepower. The Dwalker also has a stun move. When you use the melee attack, you will immediately ram into your opponent. Be careful though, because you can also be pulled off the Dwalker if someone comes behind you. Now for the stationary turret, it is quite deadly, all of them. But the downside is, you're completely exposed. For the heavy duty turret, though, only your head is exposed, but when the barrel overheats, you're a goner. Also, we have motors. Motors are very long-range overhead projectiles. Very powerful, but very slow-acting. But enemies only have to be within a few meters to be killed by it. Very effective. Next, we'll focus on physics. With physics, I'm going to talk about bullet physics in particular, because this game treats it a little differently than most. First off, bullet penetration. Different rounds will go through different various materials. Most assault rifles will go through fences, but pistol and tranquilizer rounds probably won't. Also, there is bullet damage mapping on targets. For shoot to knees are not very great. It may take 2 headshots to drop an opponent. For shotguns, they are fair. From a medium range, they're almost useless. But however, just step ahead a few meters to close range and it's almost a guaranteed one-hit kill, if not 2 shots. Next, we'll talk about the Magnum. The Magnum and other heavy caliber weapons will stun opponents if they're not wearing any armor. Also, suppressors. Suppressors are only good for 1 magazine on a weapon. Next, we'll do a quick note on grabs. Grabs is when you go up to an opponent and you do a CQC, but you don't throw them immediately. Instead, you hold them. A list of options comes up. You either interrogate, stun them by choking them out, or execute them on the spot. Interrogating them is valuable because it reveals other enemy locations. But you're wasting time doing this as he's calling to his friends for help. You can also stun him out or even eliminate him. Now let's kind of wrap this up a bit with the pros and cons. The pros, you got an excellent team-based player. You got quite a large selection of weapons, to be honest, and a variety of 3 classes to level up, and bingo prestige. And the Dwalkers do add a variety of gameplay and different tactics. And even though there's only a few handful of maps, they're variety enough to make it at least fresh, somewhat. At launch, anyway. For cons, we got people overusing the infiltrators and their equipment. That some of the weapons are clearly superior to the others. And the problem is, maps may run back to back, just be different variants. So they can grow tiresome quickly. And that multiple characters may have access to multiple different things from other classes down the road, which kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. So with all that said, as I said earlier, I don't really recommend this. It's a very bittersweet experience. It's maybe sweet on my nostalgia part for being Metal Gear Online, but for anyone new, it's probably more bitter than anything. I can't recommend this. So all in all, 3 out of 10. For based on how did the game design. Everything else is fine, but the design ruins the game. And last up, we'll do map previews. For the maps, at this point the video can end, but I'll continue going forward anyway. First off, we'll have Jate Forest. Jate Forest is also your free mode map when you're idling waiting for the rest of your friends. In combat though, it is a very diverse map. You have two very defined sides. You have one with various pathways and then a good ravine in the middle. On the other side, you got a small village with emplacements. Team Deathmatch, these two sides are pitted against each other. Also, there's Rush Mode. Rush Mode puts both sides of the opposition very close together. In this case, it is pretty much all in this small village here. You become quite a bloodbath very quickly, with either side launching grenades, E-locators, shotguns, filtration cannons, etc. This comes chaos very quickly. But in the plain deathmatch, it can go either way, depending on how the team does it. So one side might have snipers, the other ones might have infiltrators running all around the place. Also, you must be careful, because halfway through the match, at some random point, smoke will start to filter into place, ruining long-range visuals. It has to be excellent for infiltrators to go and sneak up from long range. This way scouts and others cannot see them coming, until they're relatively too close for comfort. Next up we have Red Fortress. Red Fortress is more of a level map. One side you got a big red fort, as the name states. The other side is pretty much canyons, and in the middle is a rocky formation. In rush mode, everyone pretty much fights inside the fortress. In a plain deathmatch, it is pretty much west versus east, with one side having a rocky formation, the other one having either taking place in the middle rocky formation or fighting from the fort. Most of the fighting takes place in the middle of the map though, along the rocks and different sandbags. But during rush mode, it can get crazy because there's little cover. You have up the second floor, which pretty much only has metal plates, in the middle having plenty of cover, but when you're down on the ground, everyone can pretty much see you. And both teams spawn around the corners. For Dwalkers, this is a good map, because you have a lot of freedom, there's plenty of cover for you to actually use, and you can do a lot of damage with one. But in terms for running around, it is quite a large map, and a lot of open gaps you must be wary of. So infiltrators do very well on this map during the day, because they're with long range and moving between the rocks, they're difficult to hit. And for the Dwalkers, they also have excellent cover, so they must be watched out for them as well. Or they'll lay down heavy suppressive fire or destroy your team. During the night transition, however, the map changes a little bit. Now everyone can move a little more safely. The scouts aren't nearly as effective unless they have their night vision fully tuned up. The Dwalkers may have more trouble now because trying to see someone in the darkness over long range could be to have some difficulty. Otherwise, it's generally the same map in every aspect. But a lot close quarter combat is going to take a lot more precedence over long range one now, since the only one who can see at long range effectively is the scout. Everyone else has to either resort to medium or close range, or they tinker with their settings on TV to get a nice high bright contrast to cheat. You never know who's playing against you. But in terms for how this map's played, it's best played actually defensively. You don't want to rush out. You don't want to run out there and get yourself shot. It can be a very bad on D and can turn sour very, very quickly. So it's best to play a little slow and watch your surroundings. Victory will come to those who are patient in this map. But don't take forever either, because these maps can be short. Most matches take place within 4 to 6 minutes. So be careful of snipers and shotguns, because those would be your worst enemies in this map. Or your best allies, depending how you fight. Others will probably be resorting to a lot of grenades. And even maybe using some of the gun emplacements laid around. Although, that might be suicidal. Also, a unique feature on this map, halfway through the map at a random point, a sandstorm might take place, day or night. When this does happen, for 40 seconds, visibility be near zero. So if there's snipers all around, or even infiltrators preventing you from passing, now is a chance for everyone to get through very quickly, for only 40 seconds. So you're pretty much given good enough for one life. So when this happens, the whole game can change. Someone can have a whole team on their side of the map, and then destroy another team if they don't move. When the sides are swapped, then so can the game change. Maybe even giving you the advantage you need. Next map, we have Grey Rampart. Grey Rampart's a very mobile map. You have 3 pretty much ways across. You got the bridge to the south, a bridge in the middle, and a dam, called a river dam, on the top. All 3 ways can easily transfer over to the other side. So you got people constantly fighting back and forth on these bridges. On this side you got a ravine, the chasm in front of the dam. So this could be an easy area to sneak by, or a kill zone, depending how the fight's going. Also, there's buildings to take cover in, so there's ample enough cover for everyone in this map. Dwalkers are also effective here. Also, with the various inside installations, you gotta be careful of shotguns and infiltrators waiting around corners, waiting to spring a trap on anyone. Snipers can also take the high ground from the dam and fire down on those from across the map. So, and with everyone else, they can usually use assault rifles in medium range, or close, works either way. This map leaves a lot for people to use. It's a pretty good map in my opinion. One of my favorites actually. And in so many different ways to go, so many different elevation. It's nice actually. Because you don't have to worry about being stuck on one path or being bottlenecked into somewhere. You always have a way out, unless your team is really talented. Otherwise, pretty good map, doesn't matter how you really go about it. Now also, as a part of this video, there's a chance of rain for the other maps. Rain doesn't really hinder you too horribly, but it does eliminate long-range combat. And that's pretty much it. You might be able to see opponents at long range, but aiming might be more difficult, with the various drops of water getting in the way. Now, on to Amber Station. Amber Station is medium to close range fighting. It's very urbanized. Well, industrialized is a better word to put it. Because you're in a refinery. Now there's a couple of mounted guns around, but there's a lot of corners, buildings, roofs. This is maps where you get on top of buildings and start shooting at each other. Or people beneath you. This is an elevated map. You got 2 to 3 floors up from your enemies. With all the things above you and things below you, there's plenty enough cover, if you're in the right spot. But there's also a bare area on the side of the map, where you can go sneak around your enemy even. Go to the wrecked building on the side. Or you can go straight for the roofs, named for your opponents. Or up high or down below. Those are on the chain guns, or those who are already on Dwalkers. For Dwalkers in this map, to be honest, I don't think it's that effective. Because when people are on the roof, they can easily shoot down and into your, pretty much what you thought to be safe area. Because from above, you have no protection. And taking a Dwalker up onto the roof is a bad idea. Because infiltrators could be waiting around the corner when they hear you coming. When you pass by, they'll yank you off of it and then kill you. Or Voltron you. But on the top, there's very cramped quarters. Not a whole lot of cover. So it could be a real cutthroat situation for each team trying to bind the ownership of the roof. You can find infiltrators, enforcers, even snipers up here. Those snipers probably be cut and go. Enforcers kind of reign supreme on this map, to be honest, with their heavy ordnance, LMGs, and plenty of grenades. They do a lot of damage here. Infiltrators have to pretty much rely on their shotguns. And also, it can rain during the day. Just like to point that out. Same rules apply, but Amber Station's not really affected. During nighttime, a lot of this things doesn't change, but in fact, infiltrators get more effective during nighttime, because it can become more difficult to spot. So you'll find many of them whip out the shotguns, and will eagerly get up close to pull the trigger. Or they'll take their stun weapons and attempt to Voltron you. I think I forgot to mention earlier, you cannot Voltron with a roof over your head or any debris. So Voltroning on this map can be sometimes difficult, because you may take out someone with debris over your head or obstructions. But for nighttime, it's best to stick pretty much close to the corners and become slow as possible, because you don't want to rush out there. That's a bad idea. Rushing on any night map is actually a bad idea, to be honest. I'm just going to put that out there. At night, you're better off taking stun grenades than actual grenades, because at night, the grenade indicator is very bright and easy to spot, where stun grenades are very quick fuse on them, and most people won't expect them at night. If it's all too much, you can hide underground. Underground is not much better than up above. Very cramped quarters, very tight corners, and more or less a lot of the same rules, except now you don't have to worry about people shooting you from above. But that's up to you if you wish to fight down below or high above. Either way, the fight will go on. But be careful of the time limit as always, because these maps can be short. But for the most part, the spawns, one side spawns in a tanker, the other one spawns in the dirt off this side, on opposed sides of the map. Now on to Black Site. For Black Site, those who played the Metal Gear Ground Zeroes will recognize this. This is the map that the game took place on. Rather large map, not the whole map, but roughly, I'd say, half it to 1/3, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I played that game. So yes, if you remember that map, this is a military base. So a lot of pavement, buildings, and down south, you got a lot of dirt and a campsite. Militarized campsite, sorry. For Dwalkers here, they actually do effectively, because between each building there's a lot of open ground with scarce cover. So Dwalker can really wreck an enemy team easily, if they're not careful. Luckily, there are most ways around. You won't have to go through the immediate open areas. You can go a long way and go around the various arches and paths, or even through the factory in the middle. For rush mode on this map, the factory in the middle is pretty much the ultimate kill zone. And to be honest, even in normal maps, that's usually a hot area that people try to control. Both teams can choose to spawn there if they want, on opposite sides of the factory in the middle. But when they do, it just becomes a submachine gun, grenade, and shotgun match. So it's your choice if you want to join in that bloodbath or not. Otherwise though, there's plenty of room elsewhere. Both teams have 2 Dwalkers. At nighttime, this map doesn't really... This map has the least amount of changes. It feels the same, regardless. There's plenty of light everywhere. Now, opposed to that of going above the ground, you can go underground here. Mostly it's on the northern portion of the map on the military base itself. But you can access it from the outside. It's a good way to get into your enemy spawns safely. If they're spawning a lot from here, you can probably flank them. Be careful, because the same can be said about you. But that's the maps for the most part. I think I've covered enough about this video. All in all, I think it's pretty damn... And if you watched this far, thank you for watching all of it. I'm quite surprised you did. Thanks for watching. See you next time.